there's no way to vote it in section by section, because if they reject one section,
I mean,
the whole thing
this is another tact, okay? From a realistic perspective, all right? So this has been up here since January, and there's been opportunities to put public comments in online, either using the news feed type comments, sending emails to the town hall, writing things in the book,
Or being here for these workshops.
being here to these workshops, okay? And the only comments we've gotten are from Peter Beckford and Paula Kelso. I think Fred Rosenberg made one comment that we haven't posted yet. I think it's over there on the other side.
Well, first of all, I don't have an easy alternative to offer. I'm just saying, if my wife comes in and says everything's great except, section X or Y or whatever, then her only recourse is to vote no. And then,
but you have to, well, that's always what somebody can decide if they're that strongly against one thing. But almost everything we do in life is a choice of whether you're buying insurance or anything else. It comes as a package.
I was kind of visualizing maybe something like how you vote on a bond issue, you have, but once again, if they, as you brought
You
out,
have
if you fail
18
one, then how do
separate
you?
votes.
then
On
how
a
do
bond issue up here in Maine, though, the way it's normally voted, they'll vote like, $60 million, and it covers everything from, sewer at the University of Maine to an auditorium in Portland.
Where I'm from,
They used to separate them out
separate.
here,
You
but
might have 8 or 9 bond issues to vote on.
they used to separate them out more here, but then they found out some weren't getting passed.
Right, so they come out with them all. And they almost always get passed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a little aggravating sometimes, but they do. I mean, there's a couple different ways. I mean, if you can come up with a way that you think it could be done, I mean, I'm open to it. It's just that moving to that, trying to get the thing organized. I mean, this is the deal. We did it the first time. I mean, this was the original one. Okay, so then that was the original one. Okay, and then the word public draft never got taken off of it. It was a mistake. Okay, there's tons of things that were a little bit frosty in this one. And this one was done in 2010. Well, then the next thing that happened, the one that Paul is talking about, where we did exactly what she just said we did, that's when this one came along. And we had 2 different sections, okay? And what happened was this one was updated at the town meeting. And what we did was we had like 30 or 40 things where we just did pen and ink changes and tried to catch some numeric things and capitalizations and stuff like that. And then I think there was like a lot size issue, and I forget, there was like 1 or 2 other things that were substantive, maybe 3 things. I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, and we voted on each one of those things separately. Now,
That was done at the town meeting,
and that was done at the town meeting
though. Yeah.
Right.
in the
So
spring,
no one could
in March
discuss
on
it.
the 19th. So
But
those,
the major substantive ordinance was done as a referendum with 1 vote, the whole thing or nothing.
right, that's how, and what this one did was, I think in the front of this one it said somewhere, I forget the exact, we could go look it up, but in the exact wording there, something to the effect of, this nullifies we had a separate floodplain ordinance, a shoreland ordinance, a whole bunch of different things, and collapse them all into one when we passed that one. That's how that one worked, right, Paula?
The initial one?
Right.
Right, yeah.
Right, that's
I mean,
what-
it repealed
Yeah.
9 or 10 ordinances
That's
I mean,
so-
but, that was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a huge deal back then. Because we tried to do it all, combine things in there. I mean, I hear you, and I had thought about it ever since you mentioned it. I even was thinking about it before, because I was thinking that. I mean, but then, even so, I mean, the other alternative is just to go to, it's almost like a gut thing, because it is a gut thing. But then how is it fair just to go, because that the only thing that's going to be controversial in there is going to be Article 14 industrial wind. Everything else is going to nobody really is even going to look at. But then we have made substantive changes in the other areas. So if you're gonna divide it out in substantive changes versus non-substantive changes, and then what you,
So,
right, well then, and then what do you provide for an alternative to chapter 14, article, whatever it is?
The only other alternative is to go back to the old system of a half dozen or a dozen separate ordinances covering everything individually and copying each other for most of the.
would it be legal to vote, to cover basically, voting on the judgment of the planning board to have made, in other words, you're not voting on section 8 or section 9, you're voting on what the planning board has done to modify make it more generic. I'm trying to not articulate it very well, but it's really a confidence vote in the planning board of what they've done is in the best interest of the community.
That's what you're doing.
And then, based on public comments, based on the public record that's available, based on, public meetings, public hearings, what have you, maybe that's a way to do it. You're not voting on section 14, you're not voting on section 8, you're voting on.
The ordinance.
Yeah, but you're kind of maybe making it not quite so, I'm trying to find the right word here. You're voting on that the planning board has used its best judgment. I don't know if that's legal or not, but.
That's how it's always done.
No.
I mean, this is actually, if you look at, I can guarantee you, if you look at virtually every other town in the entire state of Maine, it's quite doubtful that when towns, well, I don't know about how large towns are, I can't completely speak for them, but I can tell you that there is no town with less than 10,000 people that has gone to this degree to publicize this and put this out here in this level of detail and make it as available as we have here. There is, I'll guarantee, I would stake lots of paychecks on that for the towns in our size range.
Well, I might as well bring up the issue. I mean, we might have to meet this head on and pull out 14 and vote on that separately because, to be honest with you, I think there are provisions in 14 that we should make retroactive back to a certain date.
I mean, there's another one.
Well, at least the first part of that was what I was just thinking of here, is the whole ordinance, other than 14 being one vote and 14 being another vote.
Right, well then what do you have
Nobody else
14? You
cares
have to
about the
provide some
rest.
alternatives, because you can't have 14 with nothing in it. I mean, you can't have.
Well, no, you would revert to the existing 14.
Yeah, well then how would you have any of the references built into it?
You're gonna end up with definitions in two places and,
Not even that though. Because we've even added in all this stuff. I mean, well, we took out the construction development stuff and put it all into the,
right, which means you'd still have it duplicated. If you,
okay, I see what you're saying.
that's the one way that you can
Well, right, but
get.
then we've also done stuff in 14 though, like, that makes it more restrictive, like going down
That's
to
right,
35
but
decibels.
that's what people are going to be, you're gonna have some people that are going to fight it no matter what. But that way there, at least you don't lose the whole rest of the ordinance if you have a few people that do say, I just don't like that. If you have enough. Yes, we've actually, and we're basing it on more up-to-date research and science as well. But
Right, it
that
definitely
doesn't
is more
mean-
restrictive. I mean,
let's face it, there's a whole segment that isn't interested in whether it's, they don't want to see them, they don't want them, they're against wind, and anything that will, they don't want us to write an ordinance based on science, they want us to write one that says you can't have them in town. That's really what it comes down to when it comes down to the vote on 14.
That's correct.
I'm going to put it right out there, that is what it comes down to. So why not separate 14 out, fight for it, but I think the rest of the ordinance will go right through. The worst that can happen is it reverts to the old 14, and we don't lose all the other work we've done. Because the plain fact is, we've done more work on the whole ordinance than we've done on 14. This has been to correct a whole bunch of things we found problems with. As we've worked with it for what, 2 years now?
Right. I mean, the only reason that we got delayed is because of the court case, trying to make sure that we didn't push something through without having input from the court system. That's really was the determining factor for not doing this last year. It was not wasting time writing something that was clearly not gonna make it through a court system, and now we know what passes and what doesn't pass in the court, so now we can make those corrections.
Something to think about.
Well, we can figure out how to do that. I mean, if we're gonna do that, then I would recommend that you take a good hard look at the old 14 versus everything else, and make sure that, well, then the only other thing we could, instead of just doing all 14, we could do 14 just the wind part too, because we're adding in the medical marijuana piece and stuff like that.
Which, you know,
Well, I know, but somebody might not want to do it, but you know what, if somebody comes down and wants to do it, and we have to have, you know,
I
get the whole town stirred up, have a moratorium,
yeah.
I think
that's what's gonna happen.
That is another option to do that as well.
Well, I mean, I disagree. I'd say 14, all of 14 is one article, you know, everything that we've put in there.
You're gonna have trouble with all the numbering and everything if you don't, at least.
I think you ought to just roll it into one, go for broke. So what if it doesn't pass? What? We just
the
go
whole
back
land
to
use
where we-
ordinance,
Huh?
the whole land use ordinance.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of how I am.
I mean, yeah,
That's my opinion too. I'm just listening to everybody else's input because that's what we should do, is take,
All right, well, let's walk this through then. So then, if you did that, how would you make provisions in the ordinance? Can you make provisions, certain provisions retroactive back? Or do you set the whole,
Just go back the way you were.
I mean,
So you got those ISO contour maps at the beginning, because that's what the ordinance says?
which are impossible. I mean, we all know that.
we just make certain parts that are retroactive. I mean, it's something to think about how to do it. Well, I mean, we don't have to, again, we're not up to the point for deciding that. I mean, to me, maybe that's something that we should be discussing on March the
So at
27th.
least we've got it out there and what some of our options.
So March the 27th, what we should be discussing is the presentation. So maybe one of the presentation points on March the 27th is to bring up this topic. And then, you know, because I think, you know, roughly, you know, what should happen is we should get up and go through a slide presentation of maybe like, you know, 8 to 15 slides that kind of highlights the changes and then talks about these different options. And then the public is going to have a chance to speak, you know, and we're going to figure out how all it's going to work. And then the public can come up and speak. And then we're going to have 2 weeks to think about what the public said. And then like on the 17th, you know, because that's on the 9th, we're scheduled for the discuss the responses and changes to the public based on the previous week. On the 17th, we're going to do it. I mean, to me, again, looking at it from a public process perspective, I mean, I'm very confident that there is no process that's as open as this one that's been done to make these changes in ordinances across the state. I mean, because it's just, I just don't think that many people do it. I don't think people have the experience that we do in our job professions and things like that we're bringing to the table. And I think this is, unfortunately, I wish more people would participate, but I just don't think that people do. But
well, one of the public hearings are both, the dam's gonna break open. I mean, nobody's come along, nobody come to the meetings, and Paul is here, that's fine, and Peter submitted one submission.
I have showed this to some other towns, just so you know, who have problems with their planning boards doing things, and they can't believe that we do this. And these other people in these other towns don't like their planning boards, and because their planning boards don't do this.
I can tell you that Charlie Wallace, who's down in Brunswick, Maine, and they have an amazing system down there. He has looked at this and he has said he is dumbfounded at what you guys have done. An amazing job. Very open, very transparent. It's as good as it gets.
So, Bruce, what I wanted to do tonight, actually, just go back into the meeting materials section. So we're gonna do that on the 27th. All right, I wrote that down. So Bruce said that he had some updates for the sound portion, or for the whole wind turbine portion. Maybe what you can do is connect into that.
Oh, well, I can just give you the file too. I've emailed it to you.
When,
38-1.
I emailed it to you the other day.
oh, you know what, I didn't get it.
You didn't?
Yeah, you responded to the email.
Yeah, you did.
Was it-
You
I
responded to
emailed
him.
Oh, yeah, maybe I did. You know,
You said-
just so
You said you weren't
this
gonna
week I had some issues at work this week that were fairly significant, and we had to put my dog down yesterday, and it was just, it's not been a very fun week. So anyway.
Yeah, I asked you to post it as meeting material.
Right, and that's right, now I do remember. So why don't you just take, do you have it on your computer? Why don't you just take this and hook it to your computer, or else, I don't know, put it in this one.
It's very easy to,
What, you wanna unplug your computer?
Or you can just, you have it on a
pull
thumb
the
drive?
file.
Okay, just put it over here then.
I'll have to help you find the file, but that's a whole other thing. Wherever it'll go.
Maybe there, does that look like a
It
place?
looks like a USB.
Oh, that's not USB, it's Bruce. Bruce, that's not USB, that's an SD.
Over there.
No, it's USB.
Okay,
Trust
I'll
me.
trust
Should
you.
be two on the side there, I think.
Okay, getting it.
It looks weird.
Yeah, yeah, it does look weird, but it was cheap. It's- Okay,
So, cat to choose what happens with the removal drives.
go back over. Yes, go to land use. And then I think I put it under LUO, rewrite articles, rewrite renumbered,
That one,
yeah. And Article 14 modified.
that one?
Yep.
I just wanted to have some group input before I just posted it up there. Make sure everybody was happy. Bruce, how the heck did that happen?
What? What happened?
I definitely didn't send it to you this way.
No, I did a lot of the renumbering, although it's not coming out in multiple colors and some of it.
Well, I know, but Bruce, now we have SBS 14.1.
Well, you had SPS for everything, so.
Well,
I
now it's
kept it
double,
going.
look.
Well, yeah, the second one is the one, I haven't eliminated them, because when you have track changes, I started doing it without using the, I started doing it without,
Did you use auto number?
yes, I did.
Why?
Because it was easier to make sure I didn't screw it up, believe it or not.
I hate auto number, Bruce.
That's why there's two of them. I was doing it without auto number. This way,
Okay.
I can't keep track of my indents, so I said, I'm gonna activate auto number. And, hey, you
I'll
don't
fix
have to
it.
use it.
I will fix it.
Anyway, this way here, I knew I had my indents right. And I
I
didn't,
actually count, but just tease me.
believe it or not, I found some of yours that were off.
No, it's not possible. I found some of mine that were off too.
Like, wait a minute,
I
you
know.
skipped a number,
It
you
was,
doubled the
it was
number.
5, 8, 10, and 12. Those were the numbers.
And you can't do auto number for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I started doing it without it, so that's, then when
All right.
track changes.
So
All right.
cross-outs are in there.
Yeah, the cross-offs are still in there because of the track. This is not the cleanest.
Okay. So now here we. Wait a minute.
Some stuff I just cut out because it's gone. In other words, the definitions, I just took them out.
Right. No, I got it.
Most of your, what was previously the submission requirements, I just took them out. No, I only left in the ones you had left in.
Hey, you back in the States? Hey, I'm actually at a meeting, can I call you back like in about an hour? All right, thanks. Bye.
There was so much extraneous material there, it was like, why do we have to keep going down through this, so
Okay, so how, okay, I'm not seeing
keep going.
the track changes part.
Oh, well, hopefully it would, yeah, it's like not coming out.
Oh, show markup, that's what I wanna do.
Comments, it says. Okay. Don't ask me why it's not, because I did do it with an older version of Windows.
Right, well, it says here,
It came out on mine.
Yeah, it came out.
Okay, so
You
you've seen
had
it.
You had it side by
I've
side.
got it right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the worst part, I was 2/3 of the way
There it
down
goes.
through it and
I got it now.
crashed. Okay, so go back up a little bit.
Yeah, this is a version higher up than what I have too, so.
There you go.
Are we there yet? Yeah, we have to be.
Yeah, you're going down through, whoa, right there. Okay, so the definitions are gone, so I just cut that out. I turned off track changes and deleted it instead of having to scan through 2 pages of it.
So, should we just make a comment that all definitions be moved to Article 18?
You can, yeah. I
So,
mean, you said you're gonna redo this anyway, so.
yeah. So let me just, all right, I'll just take care of that, yeah. So, all right,
These don't have any changes, these first parts.
okay,
Your submission requirements, that was your change. Well, actually, most of these submission requirements are your changes.
okay.
That got moved. Decommissioning, we decided to leave in here.
Okay,
Those are the things we decided to leave in here. Okay, this is where you start seeing changes. We had voted on last time to reduce it to just one measurement, period. I've changed everything to sensitive receptors on the this one so far, we'll see. Sensitive receptor is, I think, is broader and is more inclusive than protected location. Plus, it can be used for other things if we want.
besides, besides houses or whatever, eagle's nest or whatever, could be.
Exactly. We can add in whatever we want on it. Okay. The blade lip stuff was removed.
Yep.
Now, the only thing I haven't done yet is, there may be a standard for that reflective coating, right? Down, right there, where it's about where we used to require a paint sample.
Okay, yeah, okay.
There is a couple of different, standards.
Like ISO's type standards?
Yeah, and I haven't looked them up. I've spotted them in a couple of documents. The problem is, I don't think there's one.
But just make sure if we have an ISO standard that's, usable.
Yeah. If there's multiple standards, unless you find them all and you specify it, if a manufacturer is just to use one of a new one, then,
Right.
okay. That now exists in the, Article 6.
Yeah. Okay.
Just, most of these are fairly minor. Okay, now, it just has a straight 35 dBA, reflecting the fact that this is a rural area. And you have people that complain about not being able to be out in their gardens and things during the day. Well, at 35 dBA, there should not be a problem being outside even during the day, or if they sleep during the day because they've got a night job. And if you can and if it maintains 35 at night, it's gonna be 35 during the day, and ambient sound will be higher, so it should be even less intrusive.
Right.
Bruce, what is a 5 dBA potency is applied for tones as defined in?
Article 18 definitions, that is going to be the, moving the definition into the definitions. And that's going to be the EPA and Maine DEP.
Mm.
And that's where Maine DEP got it, was from the EPA.
So, and is that gonna be, have you said that to me yet?
No, I haven't sent it to you yet.
Okay.
I will.
So for right now, this is just a placeholder
It's a
for.
placeholder.
Okay, got it.
It's going in the definitions. Because it turns out that IEC 61400-11, first of all, only applies at the distance measured. And it's a very, very, how do you put it, complicated, difficult to understand. And as we went over the other day, it turns out that if you look at the way they do it, that term that we had under the Vestas where it said possible tones, means the tones showed up at one or more of 12 separate measurements taken that they used the average. And then when you looked at the chart they gave for it, there wasn't one of them that the average was above the level where they considered it tones. So it's a lousy standard. That IEC 61400-11 is primarily designed to determine the sound power level that's then used in the calculations. And that's really what it's good for.
So it doesn't even really do what we want it to do anyway.
No, it doesn't.
So the audible sound limits within 4,000 feet on non-participating and participating that have a project waiver is limited to 45 dBA. So that's anywhere on those properties within 4,000 feet. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's not a, it doesn't have a mitigation or is not a project pass. Project or participating pass. That hasn't been changed.
Took out the low frequency.
But we're gonna replace it with a different low frequency thing, right?
Well, not within 4,000 feet, because nobody is there within 4,000 feet unless they have a mitigation.
Well, no,
So setting
No.
setting a standard, they know if they're within 4,000 feet, what they're,
there's no sensitive receptors within 4,000 feet.
that's right.
Because they're gonna be a sensitive receptor, low frequency sound.
It's a standard that has no application, effectively.
Can we demonstrate that? I'm just saying, is there a way during the presentation that if that's true, that we can say, I don't know, through charts or something to show that the low frequency, sounds dissipate at, 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet, or whatever, so therefore, you know, at 4,000 feet is irrelevant. I don't know, I'm just asking the question.
That's not what you're saying, you're saying if it's inside 4,000, that people on
Within 4,000 feet,
whatever. it is.
unless somebody has a mitigation waiver, it's a moot point.
So you're saying that the other one, the LE, this other one, this other standard is gonna cover it?
Well, if you go down that,
Well,
beyond
wait,
4,000 feet.
This,
One down,
okay.
where was it?
Right there, what's it, greater?
Yeah, the only thing, you don't need to worry about the low frequencies within 4,000 feet. There is going to be nobody there
Now you get to the low frequency beyond 4,000 feet.
beyond 4,000 feet.
Do you put in a level, low frequency at 50 or 55, whatever you were,
55, right?
55 dBc? Right there on the LAQC.
Audible sound limits at 4,000 feet and beyond, but not near a sensitive receptor. Left it with the 10 dBA, we could change that to 5 above.
What if there's just for instance, academically, that there's a sensitive receptor within 4,000 feet?
They have to have a mitigation waiver, period, which means they have to have been informed and they have to go with the plan.
Okay. If, unless they are, I mean, I'm not tracking this, let me just read this.
But now you're looking at 4,000 feet and beyond.
So what is is limit is 40 dBA? Maximum is 40 dBA?
Yeah, this is the suggestion right now after, in other words, why have a difference from day to night? The night is gonna be where it's louder anyway, they've got to meet it at night. If they can't meet it at night, there's really no problem with meeting it during the day. Wind turbines aren't something that get louder at different times of the day, they get louder based on the wind. So whichever is your tightest time of day or standard is the one that they're gonna have to meet anyway.
Is there a typical time of the day, night, when the wind is the strongest in this area? Is there some kind of
Strongest at night.
You'd actually have to ask
a
Fuller because of the,
Maybe
he measured it, he had the meteorological instruments up. So I don't know, but the thing is, with these wind turbines, what happens is sound quickly goes up over a fairly broad range of wind speeds, and it pretty much levels off. You get the maximum sound level very quickly, or close to it.
But maybe this is just, I live on a fairly high elevation and the wind gusts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have a big window that the guy can kind of tell how much the wind is just based on how the wind is.
How it moves.
How it moves, so, but it typically is at night, not daytime.
Right.
Um,
So why not, so the night standard is the tighter one,
yeah.
so you're just applying it to the day as well.
But at night, you're gonna have the stronger winds, at least anecdotally at my house, that would be the suggestion, so wouldn't that create more noise?
Actually, not very much. You take a look
It's
at the
not
sound.
a direct proportion, and as
It's
the
not
wind
direct.
doubles, the noise does not double.
No, it does not.
It's inverse, or,
No, it very quickly at somewhere around, I think it almost reaches the peak at around only 6 meters per second. I'd have to look at the exact chart, and it varies by turbine. But then on a pitch regulated turbine, once it gets up to that level, it only, if the wind speed doubles or triples from there, it only goes up a tiny bit more. It
So it's
really-
actually operating at a more efficient rating, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word, but.
Yes, if you look at your wind speed on graph versus the sound output, the graph goes up and then levels off. It doesn't keep going up. Now, if you're looking at a stall regulated turbine, which we are gonna ban, and I haven't added that yet, then it does keep going up
They're getting into the,
into the different, there's actually
Like
Going
different.
to a low frequency area. We didn't cover that. No, it was, what did I just see? No, it was before that.
Now you've got it too high again. The one difference is at night, the sound tends, because it tends to be stiller, it's not really the sound that carries further as much as it will be more noticeable because in general, ambient sound levels go down. You don't have as much masking noise in general as night.
So this hasn't been posted yet? Is that
No, I
correct?
gotta go through and get it formatted, it's hard.
He doesn't like my formatting.
No, it's hard for me to even read through it, but I'll get it straightened out and I'll maybe late tonight.
I got the numbers mostly right.
Yeah, the numbers are mostly right, so that'll be okay, it's gonna get stuff so that it can be tracked.
Notice how many levels you go through right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 levels deep.
So, all right, so now, okay, wait, I'm sorry, not where we were. We were down one more little bit, right?
Yep, a little bit more of the one people are gonna read.
Look right there, low frequency.
Yes.
At 4,000
Okay,
and beyond.
now,
It's changed to a straight 55 dBc. That takes care of the rumbling.
Where does it say that?
That's blue.
Well, that's-
It is blue. and
Yeah, it's in
black.
blue,
It's
and,
in black.
and it's difficult to see on here.
well, why is
Is
it
it crossed
post?
off?
Where it says DVC.
Post needs to disappear too, right?
Oh, I
Whereas
see, yeah.
What?
It has a
the word
50
post goes away too, right? It should say LEQC, hourly.
LEQC hourly post,
Oh, post construction,
yes, may
okay.
not exceed, wait. See,
That's what you meant.
yes, it's hard to see on there, but you probably can see it better on your screen right
Yeah, but you have it crossed out, but I know you don't need it
Well,
crossed
it's
out.
crossed out to 50, and you changed it to 55.
Yeah, and I actually may have crossed out more
Well, so,
without contribution.
no, okay, now why wouldn't we have it, so so,
The 55 is exactly 20 higher than the 35,
oh, I see.
so that basically is what we had before as an upper limit.
Oh, okay, I'm tracking. So by default, it makes it still 20, it keeps it the same, it just says it a different way.
Yes, it does. And basically, all the DBC thing is protecting you from is what if you were, how can you put it, as they say, rumbling type sounds and things that are annoying. DBC isn't even a good measure. It does not protect people from the really low frequency sound because it rolls off. What I'm still looking at right now is whether to also add right here something to protect from that infrasound. But I'm finding that really difficult to work through because really good studies, I had a lot of them up here, the really good studies on it are all over the place. You know, half the people claim you can't hear it, it doesn't hurt you.
You know, I was reading through them too, I found it quite confusing and it's hard to figure out which ones are. I know
Well, actually, I thought of a whole other way to attack it, and that's using the Shirley study and that one that Bill found from, and there's also one other one, I forget the name of the guy that did it, where they're doing this really short-term, narrow band analysis, and they've spread it out so you can see it. There hasn't been enough work done in this, and that's one of the problems in trying to come up with a rationally based standard for this, is that none of the experts have really agreed yet on it. But what it appears to be, when you're talking about this low-frequency infrasound, they're talking about it, okay, they're talking about it having a period related to the blade passage frequency. Except you're not seeing real low frequency or infrasound at those frequencies. What they're measuring with their analysis is actually air pressure changes. What they're calling a harmonic is technically a harmonic because they're analyzing it with software that's designed to analyze sound. But what they're actually looking at is a pressure spike. When you analyze a pressure spike as if it's an electrical impulse, if it's not a pure sine wave, you get harmonics.
Right.
The harmonics aren't really there. They're an artifact of the analysis.
Right. Right, because the sound actually would come through in a rhythmic fashion. It almost has to.
Right, but what they're
But the air pressure is not going to necessarily be rhythmic.
no, it's
So by
not. It's a
measuring the-
pulse. You're getting a pulse.
Right, because you're getting pulse from air pressure because it's so, the instrumentation is so sensitive. But because despite the fact that the thing is rotating at some reasonably constant velocity for some,
Mhm.
the radial velocity is constant for a measurable period of time, which is therefore the only kind of wave it can generate is a sine wave.
Well, no, that's just it. The pressure is not.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so that's why it's not measuring a sine wave. That's why it's not measuring the sound, because the only sound it can generate is a sine wave sound. It can't generate it'd have to have deteriorated to such a degree that it probably would be non-measurable if it were not sine wave anymore.
This is hard to describe because you're getting into some pretty far-end physics here.
Well, I can visualize it. I definitely.
Okay. What if you had a pure sound, a tone at this blade passage frequency, then instead of these spikes that they're getting, what you would see is a sine wave.
Right, I'm agreeing with that. I can see.
Okay, but what they're getting is a pressure spike.
Right.
When you analyze a pressure spike as if it was an electrical signal or a sound signal, for instance, I'm trying to remember because you might remember, Vernon, but a square wave is actually the sum of all odd harmonics if you run it through what's called fast Fourier transform. It gets really complicated. So what's happening when you see these so-called harmonics? Those, I'm not even sure if they're actually being measured because they're an artifact of the software interpreting a pressure spike that's not a sine wave, it's a pulse. And a pulse has, if you're analyzing it with fast Fourier transforms, has harmonics. So the harmonics show up, but they do and they don't exist. It's really